Okay, notes 32, 33. So just two objectives, doing several of each one of. So you can look on the bottom of the basket over there. That's where all the stuff is. So objective, and I have it written on the board over there too. So objective 32, this one should look familiar to you. I know you did that in Algebra 1, and then I reviewed it with you last year. And this one's a little bit different than the last one where we factored the first three numbers and then left that last one because it was a square. This one we're actually going to factor by grouping. Yes? Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so objective 32 is factoring four terms, so polynomials, using grouping. And we're going to group them into binomials. So just writing this down. And then objective 33 will be something brand new for you guys.
Wait, do you have to write that sentence?
No, you don't ever have to write the name because it'll be on all your worksheets. So just write. They just want us to now start writing because apparently just hearing them is not enough. All teachers are supposed to be writing. Like this week, you were learning about.
Let me see.
Yeah.
Did you do that? Oh.
On the board. And it's over there now too. So if you're.
Oh, this thing.
Yeah.
You said you want us to write this.
Just the top in there. This I'm required to put on there now. And on the board. You'll have to jump through hoops for the rest of our lives. You just need to know. Very good.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yes, I know somebody's going to point this out that we have like terms on here. Not all of these will be like this. And you technically could, it's just going to be more work for you to put it together and then break it apart. They kind of already have it separated for us, okay? And these really are pretty easy because we're going to know a pattern. And this is why we separated it from the other ones because we don't want to know, okay, which one am I supposed to be doing the grouping or the first three and leave the one on. So that's why we separated the test out there, okay? It's just another method to do these. Okay, so what we're wanting to do is we're wanting to split them into binomials. So we want to put a group of two together and a group of two together. Okay, so by doing that, we're just going to put parentheses around it. So we're going to have 2x squared plus 8x. Okay, and then when we put parentheses around the last two, we exclude that sign. And you'll see why when we have negatives. Okay, so this is going to be here, and then we have 3x plus 12. Okay, now quick question, just so leading up to when you do have those. If I exclude this sign, so this one's a plus, it's not going to change anything, but if I exclude that and that was a minus, what is it going to do to the ones that are in this parentheses? Change the signs. Okay, so that's the only time that it would be different. Okay. All right, so all we've done is just rewritten them with parentheses around them. It really doesn't matter if those parentheses are there because we didn't distribute anything, so we're just rewriting them so that we can factor them separately as binomials. Okay. So I'm looking at my first one, and I'm looking for what is the greatest common factor. And I'm just going to write so that you know where this is coming from. Okay, what is the greatest common factor of just that one? 2x. Okay, so we're going to write that. So 2x, and then we write what's left in that binomial. So that would be x what? Plus 4. Okay. I'm going to put my plus there, and I'm doing it again now to this one. Finding out what is the greatest common factor. 3. Okay, and then I write what's left. Okay, anybody notice? The same. Okay, so that's going to be something that you're going to want to watch for. If these are not the same, then you probably took out a common factor, but maybe not the greatest common factor. Okay, all of these should work out this way, where these two, okay, should match. If they don't match, go back and check your work. Okay, like stop before you go any further. Okay. You good there? Okay. So when they match, I only write one of them. On this first one, I'm writing lots. This is right. X plus 4. Okay. And then what's on? Put it on there. Or are you done? Yeah. Okay, good. Okay, then what's left is these two we put together in the parentheses. Okay, which would be 2x plus 3. And that's it. Okay, so now the only thing you just need to be careful of is, notice this is different now. Now there's no plus in between. We actually wrote it so that we can distribute it and should be able to get back to this original one here. Okay. Be careful if we're going to have one like this. Just always glance to see if, now those are binomials, if I can factor that one further. So remember, it has to be a perfect square, and a sign in the middle has to be a negative, which neither one of those is true on that. Okay. So if I wanted to check it to see if I can get back to the original, if I distributed that to that, 2x times x would be 2x a second. This times this gives me 8x. That gives me 3x. And then that gives me 12. So it got me back to the original. Okay. Even if I were to combine those, the 8 and the 3, okay, I would still get that 11x in the middle. Okay. The rest of these don't have like terms in the middle. Okay, so we're going to try it again. Number 1. Yeah, 5, sorry. Number 1 is 5x to the 6th plus 8x to the 5th minus 10x minus 16. Okay, so remember we're putting parentheses around the first two. Leave my sign out. Okay. This was a negative 10x, so now in the parentheses it's a positive 10x, right? It was a negative 16, now it becomes a positive 16. Okay, we have to switch the signs because we separated the negative away from it. We put them in parentheses and took the negative out. So if you were like, did I do that right? Well, if you distribute, you have to be able to get back to the original, right? So if I distribute that to that, that gives me a negative 10x, and the negative, no, yeah, negative times a positive would give me a negative. So we're just rewriting it so that we can factor it. Okay, now we're doing what we just did. So common factor for that one, greatest common factor. Just x to the 5th, right? We can't take out any number, so we're going to write what's left. So there's still a 5x plus what? 8. Okay, so now we're doing it right. When I get to the next one, my parentheses should wind up to be the same thing. So what is the largest that I can take out of that? Okay, so negative 2. Okay, so that would leave 5x plus 8. Okay, so remember the goal is to make sure that these two match. They do. How many times do I write it? Just once. Okay, what am I putting in the other parentheses? Right, x to the 5th minus 2. It's coming from these. Okay, and then again, just double check, make sure none of them are perfect square binomials, which neither one of them are. Okay, so if you were to distribute that, it's going to take you back up to the original. Okay, as long as you get this pattern down, they're pretty easy. Okay, next one. Still the same thing, but we got a little extra on this one. So that reads 3x to the 6th minus 12x to the 4th plus 5x to the 5th minus 20x to the 3rd. Okay, so and some of you, when you start to write your parentheses, you might just go ahead and take out the common factor and then write what's left, like if you're keeping track of things in your head. Okay, I'm not going to just because. So we have 3x to the 6th minus 12x to the 4th. Am I going to change the signs in my second one? No. Stay the same. Okay, greatest common factor of the first one? 3. Okay, so 3x to the 4th. Writing what's left, so I have x to the second minus 4. 4, just 4. Just we checking? Okay. Greatest common factor of the second one?
5x.
Okay, so 5x to the third, so we have x to the second minus 4. Okay, what's one of my parentheses? Okay, x to the second minus 4. That's another one. Notice anything? Yeah, what?
They're both.
Split it up.
Okay, that one's a perfect square binomial. That is not. Like the 4 would be, but none of the rest is, and there's not a negative in between. So that means that we're going to wind up with 3 parentheses on this one. Okay? And again, remember, it doesn't matter the order. I'm going to go ahead and write this one first. So 3x to the 4th plus 5x to the 3rd. Okay, this is a perfect square binomial, so that means I can split it up further, factor it down further. So what are my signs going to be? Plus and a minus. Okay, I split up whatever my variables are, so it's going to be an x and an x. And then what's my second term going to be? Right. Now we're done. So just be cautious of the binomial ones not to go too fast. Okay, it has to be a negative in between in order for you to do that. Okay, we good?
So it doesn't matter if you write like 3x, 4, 2, 5x.
No. No. We good? Okay. Oh, no, we forgot one more thing, sorry. Okay. First parentheses. Look at the first parentheses. At the answer-wise. Notice anything? Okay. What's left? 3 plus 3x. I knew we had one other one like this. But yeah, it was on this one too. So 3x, right? Because we subtract plus what? 5. Okay, and now our and you probably could have maybe have noticed that up there. I was concentrating on that. So okay, now we're done. Okay, so there's our full answer. Okay, last one on that one. So this one I'm gonna like cut out my middle, or that first step of writing it with the 2 parentheses. I just know that I'm looking at these first 2, I'm looking at those second 2, so what would be, and if you want to write that, write it. I'm not gonna write it. So what would be my greatest common factor for those first 2? 5x to the 5th. Okay, so 5x to the 5th. I'm gonna write what's left, so I will have x to the 2nd minus 4. Okay, and then the same thing here, I don't have to change any of the signs. Max would be what? 2x to the 2nd. Okay, writing what's left, so x to the 2nd minus 4. Okay, so the 2 of these match up, but what do you notice about those 2 when I go to write it once? Factor it down further. Okay, so x plus 2 and x minus 2. Okay, when I go to write this one, do I have any common factors I can take out?
X to the
2nd, good. Okay, so I'm going to write what's left. 5x to the 3rd plus. Okay, so if I lost you, go back to the previous one and write all those steps out. Trying to save, because you can do that, save some space for for doing problem. Okay, so we've been working with squares and knowing what the perfect squares are, which again, some of you have calculators. I don't think any of these go beyond 10, so that's why I kind of put those on there. You'll do them enough, you'll kind of have some of these memorized. Okay, but we're finding instead of the square root, we're finding the cubed root of things and breaking down cubes. Okay, so the name of this objective is factor the sum or difference of two cubes. And this will be algebra 2. I don't think it's really any tougher than the other ones that we did. It's just something new. Okay, so when things are cubed, it means they're times itself 3 times, right? So 1 times 1 times 1 is 1. 2 times 2 is 4 times 2 would be 8. So that's where all of these are coming from. You ready? Or somebody still ready? Somebody's still ready. Now we're good. Okay, so this next one is not a problem. I just want you to, as in it's not a problem that we're going to see. It's setting us up so that we understand how to do this. So I want you to write this, and I want you to actually distribute it and tell me what you're getting, okay? So as in, like, write this out, and you're going to distribute the A to here, the A to here, the A to there, and then the B, okay? I'm gonna let you get started so you can look at your paper while you're doing it, and then I'm gonna start going up there so you can look at, check your answers. Okay? If not, make sure you change those. These are part of our notes. Okay, so when I distribute A to A squared, I'm going to get A to the third power. When I distribute A to AB, there's now 2 A's, right? So it's A to the second B. And then A to B squared is going to be AB squared. Yes? Oh, yeah, that should be 3. Yes, thank you.
Isn't it cost? It's cost.
It is. I have my wrong one up here. This is the one I'm copying from. A to the, let's try this again. Oh, get out of here. Okay. Let's try this again. Sorry. I had the wrong one up here. a to the third, the next one you're going to be doing that. So copy that. Minus a squared b, I will see it here. ab squared. See what happens when the cops show up, they make you all nervous. And then you like fumble, and no, it wasn't supposed to be. No, that's not my big kid, that's right. Okay, there we go. Not better? That's fine. Okay. Okay, so now we're looking at like terms. Okay, so I don't have another a to the third. A squared b, so I have an a squared b. Well, what happens to those two?
Cancel out.
Cancel each other out. Okay, so ab squared. Okay, I have another ab squared. So they what? Cancel each other out. Okay, so this one that looked like this wound up giving us a to the third plus b to the third. Okay, trying it one more time, and this time it was the answer that I wrote up. I was looking at my wrong sheet. Okay, trying this again. Different signs now. Okay, we're good? Okay, so there is a pattern that is happening here when we have this. Notice that this is the same, right? And this one is the same. Okay, write this and I'm going to explain this to you.
On that second parentheses, that plus or minus for the first one.
A squared minus is on top.
Next one.
Yes. Yeah, don't flip those around. Because I'm going to show you that pattern. So plus is on top and a minus, then it's a minus plus, and then that one just is a plus. Any of you don't use soap? All of you use soap? We won't make fun of you. Like, it dries out your skin. Just use water and vinegar or something. Or bleach. Okay. Because you're going to use soap for this section. So now you can say you use soap. Okay, this is similar to, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, to help us remember the order of things of which we do things. Okay, so on cubes, we use soap. Okay, so where this is coming from, the S stands for same. Okay, so when we go to factor these, you're going to see cube problems. Okay, where they're binomials and they have cubes. Okay, so when we go to factor these, there's always going to be a parentheses that looks like this, and then a parentheses with 3. Okay, So when we're looking at these, the very first sign is going to be the same. So if my problem started out as a plus, then this one's going to be a plus. Just like the one that we did where we didn't have numbers or anything. Okay, it started out with a plus. Then this one is going to be the opposite. So that sign's going to be the opposite. So if we started with a plus, this one's going to be a minus. Okay? And then the last one is always positive. Always positive. That one doesn't change. Okay? So then, if we go back to this one and say it was a to the third minus b to the third, okay, the first one is going to be the same, so it's going to be a minus, but then the one in this parentheses is going to be the opposite, which would be a plus, and then the last one is always positive. Okay, so that helps you do your placement, because remember when we were reading the trinomials, we always look at the last sign as a negative, so these signs are different, and then we like match them up, right? So this is where this is coming from to help you factor. Okay, so the first one's always the same as what your original problem is that you're factoring, and you'll see the problems we're going to do in just a minute. And then the next one in the next parentheses is the opposite of whatever that first one was. Okay, so that's why these were flipped. Choose to say positive first. Okay, so we're actually going to review how we cube things, and then we're going to try a problem. Okay, so I started out with squared first. Okay, so if you recall when we did exponents, when it's a power to a power, what are we actually doing with those exponents? Multiply. Okay, so really this is, if we don't have to write the variable out, okay, this would look like if I'm just taking the exponents, I'm multiplying the exponents, right? I'm going 2 times 1/2, which means we cross cancel that. So that would just be x to the 1 power. We don't have to write a 1, we just know it's an x, right? Okay, because we take the exponents and we go power to a power and multiply. Okay, but that's different when we have a number. So remember when we had the fraction thing, that 1 is an exponent, but there's something that we do when we have that denominator. What are we doing with 4? Square root. Okay. So really this means the square root of 4, which is 2. Okay, we're not taking, although that is half of 2, we're not taking half of 2. We're taking the square root or cubed root or fifth root or whatever that bottom denominator is. Okay, so now working with cube roots, because that's what we're doing in this section. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing with that next one, and that would be 3 times what? 1/3, which is the same as what we did up here. Okay, right? The 3's would cross cancel, and that's still going to leave me with just x. You can put a 1 as exponent if you want to. Okay, so just like this one, except for square root, we are now doing the cube root. Okay, and so on your calculators, it would look like that. Some of you, you might have an x there, but we just filled out a thing that tells you what the cube root of 8 is. Okay, what is the cube root of 8? 2. Okay, so we're going to have to find cubes of numbers so that we know what our a is and what our b is. Okay, so we're going to take this, and now we're going to apply it to this and use the SOAP formula. Okay, we're going to try 2 of them before we actually go into the problems. So x to the 3rd minus 8. And then just make a little squiggly line, and then we're going to try x to the 6th plus 4. Okay, so to plug into the formula that we just had, I need to figure out what my a is and what my b is. Okay, so we're doing the cubed root. So if I cube this, I'm really just dividing this by what? 3, right? Just like the one we had on the previous page, this was really 3 times 1/3, okay? So I'm really just dividing it by 3, okay? So that means that my a is just going to be what? X. Good? Okay, now I'm taking the cubed root of 8. And we just did that on that previous page. The cubed root of 8 is 2, so that's my b. This is my a, this is my b. Not yet. That has to do with when we plug it into our formula. We're just finding the cube root of 8. Okay, so if you refer back to the 2 that we did, this is a minus, Okay, so you're going to write this just so you can see where this came from. You won't have to do this every time. Just want to make sure you understand it. So remember, this is going to be the same, right? And then it goes to a squared, but now it's not going to be the same. It's going to be the opposite. So that means this is going to be a plus. Okay, and then the next one was AB. And then the last one is always positive. Okay, and that's going to be your b squared. Okay, so I'm just replacing this with the stuff that we just figured out what my A and my B are. So my A, we just said was x. So it's just A. There's no squaring it, no times it. We're just replacing the A with what we found out A was. Okay, minus what? 2. Okay, now the next one I'm going to square A. Well, when I square x, it's just x squared. The plus comes down, because remember it's the same opposite from what the original was. Okay? A times b. So that's just 2 times x. So 2x. That's my last one. We're just squaring b. So 2 times 2 makes it. We're done. Okay? Same as the original, opposite from the original, and the last one is always positive.
You just have to factor in further.
You won't be able to. Factors of 4 to add to give you 2, so you have 1 and 4, 2 and 2, so you can't. I don't think any of these, I mean, that's a good thing to check, but I don't think any of these you can do. Okay, so let's try it again. This one, I'm going to leave some steps out here, okay? So, what is my A? What am I dividing 6 by? 3. So when I divide it by 3, my x is to the second. Okay, B, again, you already have this on your list to glance at. You're taking the cube root of 64. You're not memorizing number 4. Okay, we're good to there. Okay, so referring back to, again, I'm not going to write this. We just know that the first one is going to be the same. Okay, and then my second parentheses, my first term is going to be different. So it's going to be a minus, and then my last one's going to be a positive. Okay, so now we can fill it in. Okay, so what am I putting in the first one? X to the second. 4. Okay, then in the first one, it's going to be x to the second squared. So remember, you're going 2 times 2, so that would make it x to the 4th. Okay, and if any of you are confused, this is where this comes from. Okay, x to the second being squared, so we times it, right? Okay, what's in the middle? 4x to the second. What? Or 16. And again, there's no factors of 16 that have to give you 4. So that's what I'm saying. Once you get the pattern down and remember how your signs go, I don't think it's necessarily any tougher than the previous one. Okay, and some of you will get quick at these, not tougher. Okay, so now we're actually going to try a problem. Those were just simple ones to kind of get you started. So this is number 13. And yes, these notes will probably be worth a lot when it comes to your quiz. So do it quite well. Okay, now before I had the variable and the number separated. When they're together, you're still doing the same thing. You're still finding the cube root of 27. Okay, it's just the number and the variable are together, so that's going to be your A. Okay, so what would my A be? 3t, right? Because the cube root of 27, which you have on your list, okay, is 3. So my A is 3. And then cubing that, so 3 divided by 3 is 1. So 3t. Okay, the B. Y. Okay, first. Minus 5, right? It's the same. It's the same sign. Okay.
always positive.
Okay, what's going to my first spot? Squaring this. 9t squared, because you're squaring all of it. So you're squaring 3, so 3 to the third, or 3 to the third power. Okay, so we're squaring it, sorry. 9t squared. 15t, because you're going this times this. It's a times b. So that's 15t. Is that what? 20.
For the 19th, would it be cubed because it's t?
No, your formula that you had was a to the second, right? And then ab, and then b squared. So when we square this, 3t squared, 3 being squared would be 9, and then this is just 1. Does that make sense? Yeah. Yeah, the ones that we've just practiced previous to this were just the variable and then the separate. But it's whatever your a is, it's going to be squared. That's your final answer, yeah. And again, don't worry about there's not any that you can factor. Okay. What's my a? X to the 7, because you're dividing by 3. My b, y to the 8. Because we're just dividing by 3. So if you need to write that on your notes so you know where it came from, do that. Okay, so in the first one, it's going to be the same, so it's going to be a plus. So it's just x to the 7 plus y to the 8. Okay, same, and then it's opposite, always positive. Okay, squaring my a. X to the 14, because it's really close. A times my b.
Well, extra 7, y.
Right, and alphabetical is how we write it, so x to the 7, y to the 8, unless there's a number, then the number goes in front of it. Okay, and then squaring your b.
Y to the 6.
Y to the 6. It's not 8 times 8. Not bad. Okay, last one. Yeah, last. A is x to the 4th, 90. Y to the 5th. Okay, first one, gonna write that with the same sign, so x to the 4th plus y to the 5th. Okay, same, opposite, always positive. Squaring my a, so it's me x to the 8th. A times b, so it's just putting those two together alphabetically. And then squaring that one. Y to the 10. Okay, now the arguing begins. Not that you create something